Welcome to the Daily Coffee Pro by Mapper Forward, friends. I'm your host, Lee Safar, and this is the final part of a 5-part series where we're talking about preparing for 2023. What are we preparing? We're preparing your professional career as well as your coffee small business in the coffee industry. And today, in our final episode for this series, we're talking about the coffee consumer, which I think is rapidly changing, and particularly I think that their buying habits are rapidly changing. So let's finish off this series by talking about that. Let's do it. This episode is brought to you by the Cloth Filter Company, who hand sew reusable coffee filters for all your favorite pour over and batch brew devices. Save trees, save money, make delicious coffee. I use them almost every day, so check the show notes for details. In 2022, our content theme for everything Map It Forward, but particularly on this podcast, was focused on understanding what the problems are that need to be solved in the coffee value chain. And I hope you'll agree with me that we've done a pretty good job on this podcast of exploring those things. And in the final run-up of podcast series that we've got for the rest of this year, we're really honing in on that. We're going to be talking to Nolan, the owner of Proud Marys. We're going to be talking to Yanis, the CEO of the SCA. We're going to be talking to Bruno, the president of ASCA, which is the Australian version of the SCA. And we're going to be talking to Abby Munoz, who is a producer in Hawaii. We're going to be talking about a lot of those problems that exist in the industry intensely in those final series that we'll be putting on this podcast for the rest of this year. And then we'll have some kind of encore sessions of what we'll be doing. And during that encore time, I hope you'll take the opportunity to re-listen to the most well-received series, the most popular series of this year, where together with the final 4 or 5 series that we've got coming up, we really did try and understand and unpack like what is broken in our industry and what is not broken in our industry. The reason I mention that is because throughout this year, I've really thought very, very hard about what we want to focus on next year. And what really has become apparent is the coffee consumer, as we went through this year and as the consumer started to experience more and more challenges with regards to the way that they buy coffee or what coffee they can afford or how they're going to get ready for the recession that's here or coming, a whole bunch of things, their buying habits have changed. And so we've decided that the content theme for next year will be understanding the coffee consumer, particularly the specialty coffee consumer. And that means that we're going to be bringing on board a whole bunch of podcast guests that can help us understand how to read analytics, where to find the analytics, how to figure out who your customer is and is not, a whole bunch of stuff. So you'll be getting a different flavor of guest next year. We will keep the high quality that we've got, but these kinds of guests next year are going to help business owners and coffee professionals alike understand what is it that makes the specialty coffee consumer tick now, which is very different to what made a coffee consumer tick before the pandemic. It is really important for us to understand what our consumer is as an individual business owner or as an individual barista who may perhaps be looking at opening up a coffee concierge service. We may be looking at how we differentiate our cafe out. As an employee of a cafe, how do you differentiate yourself out so that people choose to come to your cafe in the neighborhood rather than any other cafe? As we move into 2023, this is going to be the level of finite detail that you need to go to in order to capture the business that's necessary to keep your business thriving. And through customer acquisition planning and the process of customer acquisition planning, which if you're interested in, look in the show notes and go to our live online workshop series that's happening in November and December, where one of the 3 workshops that we're offering is about customer acquisition planning. And a part of customer acquisition planning is understanding the customer personas that you want to engage as a part of the campaign that you're running. You may have 5 different kinds of customer groups or customer personas that you target as a part of your industry or part of your business, sorry. Each campaign that you're going to be running could be targeted to a segment of those 5 different customer personas, or it could be targeted at all of them. But through strategic planning, you can figure out how do you deliver a better customer experience that's tailored to your specific coffee consumer. And folks, gone are the days where we could get away with let's just open a business and let's just see which are the customers that find us. That's not how it works. Coffee has more than ever got a branding problem, and we're confusing the consumer even more with all these different varieties of processing methods and where they should be brewing and when they shouldn't be brewing and what kind of water should they be using and what kind of water shouldn't they be using. I'm not averse to us going to this specific level, but if you are marketing a kind of product to a consumer segment that's not interested in your product, and you're wondering, why doesn't anyone want to buy my coffee? Well, there's a misalignment there going on. And the process of customer acquisition planning, this is the process where you go and acquire or bring new customers into your business, requires you to have a deep enough understanding of who your customer is before you can do that. Now, the consumer that you are looking to attract to your business needs to be aligned with the product that you are offering, or your product needs to be aligned with the consumer that is likely to visit your business. And your job is to figure out, how do I find the sweet spot between those 2 things without creating a friction or tension point between what your customer wants and what you've got to sell? If those 2 things don't line up, that's when you're going to have difficulty growing your business, because it means that you're not able to bring customers into your business and keep them because they don't want what you've got to sell. You may be able to attract them with shiny shit, but then when they're there, they realize this isn't what they said they were selling. And so they leave and never come back. And then we can't retarget customers. So understanding your coffee consumer, which is different to the coffee consumer, because there's no such thing as the coffee consumer anymore. Recently, Nestle released Blue Bottle instant coffee, and it's called Craft Instant Coffee. It's like, okay, these guys have figured out that the instant coffee that they are known for all over the world, which is the Nescafe Blend 43, that brand of instant coffee now has a segment that is from their specialty coffee brand, Blue Bottle, and it is marketed to a whole other category of coffee consumer. It's genius. And it's in this tiny little beautiful glass jar, and they're going to sell like hotcakes. Why? Well, because it creates an easier barrier to entry for someone who wants to have something that's convenient and something that's a little bit more bougie than the Blend 43, and they're going to be able to charge a lot more for it. How are you going to be able to position that level of variety and that level of exclusivity into the products that you offer and the services that you offer, whether you're a business owner or whether you're an employee. And how do you, as an ecosystem, employees and business owner, work together to conspire to the success of each other as well as the consumer? That's the questions that we need to be asking as we move into 2023. And they're the questions that we're going to ask and address in our workshops that are coming up in November and December. So head to our page, mapitforward.coffee/events, or please check the show notes for the links to go directly to Eventbrite to register, as well as get some discount codes. If you've got any questions, hit us up on social media. I really think that this is going to be a wonderful experience that will empower you to get prepared for 2023 and at least get you thinking about the right questions that you should be asking for your career and for your small business as we move into very interesting times in 2023. I hope you've enjoyed this series, folks, and I appreciate every moment that you spend listening to this podcast. It has been such a wonderful kind of ride this year, watching our audience almost double. There's 50,000 unique subscribers of this podcast to our RSS feed every month, which is like mind-blowing. So thank you to each one of you, and I hope you enjoy our next series with Nolan Hurt from Proud Marys. Peace, love, and peanut butter, folks. Have an amazing rest of your day. Thanks for tuning in, friends. There are 2 ways you can support this podcast. Firstly, become a paid member of our YouTube channel. Secondly, you can join our Patreon for as little as $3 a month. Don't forget to subscribe and like this video before you leave, and check the show notes for more information. Now, this is what you should check out next.